Guys, prices are high and price relief is nowhere in sight for the Inland Empire housing market. That's what we're looking at in today's Inland Empire real estate update for March 12th, 2025. Let's get right into it. And we're looking at the latest weekly data from Redfin for the Riverside, California metro area, which incidentally includes both Riverside and San Bernardino counties, i.e. the Inland Empire. Each line represents a year. The green line represents this year, 2025. The orange line represents 2024, etc. Right now, we're looking at the median sale price of homes in the Inland Empire. And this week, we are at $589,000. Now, that's just $1,000 below the recent peak set a month ago and only $5,000 below the Inland Empire all-time pricing peak set in November of last year. Prices are uncomfortably high in the Inland Empire, especially for March. And when prices are this high, you can't blindly agree to pay an agent 3% or even 2.5% to help you buy a home, even if the agent tells you that the seller is paying that commission. Let me show you why. Now, let's say you're an Inland Empire home buyer and you've connected with an agent whose commission is 2.5%, but don't worry, he tells you, you won't have to pay it because the seller will pay my commission as part of the deal. And let's say you find a seller who is selling a $600,000 home. Median price is slightly below that right now, but to make the numbers easier, we're going to say that this is a $600,000 home. So you offered the seller $600,000, and the seller will pay your agent's commission, which in this case is $15,000. Now, this little roundabout here is the bullshit logic that realtors use to make you think you're not paying them directly when really you are. Let me prove it to you. If you had the means to buy this $600,000 home, but you were on the hook to pay your agent yourself, it would look something like this. Here you are, happy home buyer. Here's your agent with their 2.5% commission. Here's the seller. And like I said, in this case, you're able to afford to pay the seller $585,000, and you have to pay your agent directly that $15,000. Well, guess what? Whether the money weaves its way through the seller or not, in both cases, you're paying your agent $15,000 because in both cases, the seller ends up with $585,000. When your agent says that the seller pays the commission, it actually means that you're offering that much less to the seller. It's true. Let me show you. Clean this up over here. If you're buying a home in the Inland Empire and you work with an agent who instead of charging 2.5% charges just 1%, then when you go to buy that $600,000 home in the traditional way, meaning the seller pays the commission, quote unquote, the seller is only on the hook to pay the agent $6,000. And in this case, the seller's proceeds are going to be $594,000. Now you tell me who's going to win this bidding war? The buyer whose offer to the seller is really $585,000 or the buyer whose offer to the seller is really $594,000? Well, I can tell you who's going to win this bidding war any time. Telling you that the seller is paying their commission is just part of the scam that realtors are pulling on Inland Empire home buyers. I've exposed the full scam. I'm going to put a link to it up there and also put a link in the description. If you're planning to buy a home in the Inland Empire, I strongly suggest you watch this video. Now let's get back to the data. Now we're looking at new listing median price. This is the median price that new listings have come to market in the Inland Empire this week. We're at $607,131. That's a little $5K pop over the last week after flattening out for the month before it. New listing median price is also a great indicator of realtor sentiment because realtors who are in the market are setting these list prices. The fact that new listing median price flattened and then went up is not a good sign for Inland Empire home buyers. It indicates that what realtors are seeing is that buyers are acquiescing to these high prices, and indeed they are because prices are floating at really record levels. In other words, guys, there's no relief in sight as we head into the spring buying season in the Inland Empire. Now we're looking at new listings, which have been flat for the last month. This week we had 1,191 new listings come to market in the Inland Empire. That's 13.8% more than last year, What's nice is that we are seeing more listings than last year. We're hovering in the low double digits over last year. That's great, but we're also not gaining over last year. Now we're looking at homes sold. This is the metric that tells us how many homes sold this past week in the Inland Empire. This past week, we saw 783 homes sell, which is 1.1% more than last year. And if we go back through our green line, we see that we're either over or under last year by a couple percentage points. We were doing much better than last year at the beginning of the year, but now our home sales is really right in line with last year. Now looking at pending sales. Pending sales is a leading indicator of homes sold because a home goes pending about a month before it becomes a home sold. It's kind of hard to see our green line in the midst of the orange and blue lines, but this week 1,072 homes went pending. That is represents 1.3% more homes than the same week last year. And as you can see, we're really right where these numbers always are this time of year. With homes sold a little elevated over last year's numbers and pending sales right at last year's numbers, that means we should expect homes sold to decline a bit in the month ahead. Now we're looking at active listings. This is the total number of active listings on the market in the Inland Empire, accounting for new homes coming to market via new listings and homes exiting market via homes sold, as well as just listings being canceled. That's when a home exits market without being sold. And this metric has fallen straight down for the last 4 weeks. I'm now convinced that this is some sort of tabulation error on Redfin's part, and they really need to fix this error so we can start looking at good numbers again. Just to run through some numbers, according to this graph, there are 9,700 homes on the Inland Empire market right now. A week ago, that number was 11,200. That represents a loss of 1,500 listings in 1 week. Is that possible? Definitely not. We had 1,191 new listings this week and only 783 homes sold. Now, that represents a gain of somewhere in the ballpark of 300 and 400 active listings. Instead, we have a reported loss of 1,500 active listings. Something is rotten in Denmark, people. And of course, this active listings metric being all whack is problematic because it also throws off our supply metrics. I assume they're based on the active inventory metric. So yeah, weeks of supply is dropping and weeks of supply usually drops this time of year, but how reliable is this number? We just don't know. I'm hoping Redfin straightens out their data pretty soon. One data point we can still look at with some confidence is the average sale to list ratio. Right now we're at 98.8%, which is rather low, lower than the same time last year when we were at 99.1%. Now, when the average sale to list ratio is below 100%, that suggests a cool market. It means homes are selling for less than they're being listed for. And this really reinforces a conclusion we came to 2 weeks ago, which is that pricing in the Inland Empire is so high, not because there's this overwhelming demand and prices are getting bid up, but simply because more expensive homes are coming to market. And the buyers of these homes are more affluent buyers. We're seeing slightly more listings than last year, the exact same number of sales as last year, but prices that are strangely elevated. Again, the only explanation that I can draw is that more expensive homes are coming to market, they're being purchased by more affluent buyers, and that's why prices are high. I'll be posting the next Inland Empire real estate update in 2 weeks. Come back then. In the meantime, check out my playlist, How to Buy a Home in California, for the real insider tips on how to buy a home in California without getting screwed over. It's important stuff. Check it out, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.